Peter, when I told Joe that you are in Toronto, and I messaged him and I said, I am standing next to Peter de Jong in a queue, in a line, waiting to talk to him. He was very excited. Just as excited he was to have met Eve.
Oh God, yeah. And because before we were starting to record, I think you were talking about exceptions, Peter, and how you thought, well, let me try this with the next clients, and everyone had an exception.
Yeah.
Is that what turned you on to solution focus in the first place?
Oh, absolutely. That was also the, as I said, I had gotten some training in psychodynamic approach, and that very same summer in '89, we went out. Jay Haley was doing a workshop out on the East Coast, and we went to that, and it was immensely entertaining. Immensely entertaining. He had clients. The intervention was to sing Duck, Duck, Goose. They had a child who was psychotic, and obviously they were thinking of dysfunctional family patterns and the like. And so this was the intervention. And I mean, everybody there was wowed. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could never, ever do anything like that. There were just a whole lot of things about it that just didn't fit with me for an interactional process and working directly with the client's conversation and the like. So I think that and reading about the idea of exception, that was much more hopeful for me. So I went off in 1990 and went to Milwaukee. It was just around the lake. I was living in Michigan. And that was the first summer that I was there. And I was there every summer until INSU passed in January of '07. And then sometimes I would have January off. And so I would go to BFTC, and after a couple of years of workshops, then I was working with on a research, follow-up on client research there. And then one thing just led to another. I got very involved with INSU on trying to find a way to make it as accessible as possible. And that's where our writing came from, is we were really just trying to make doing this sort of conversation as accessible as we could. Yeah. But that was
Sorry, I never met you. You must have come right after I left.
Yes, and I heard about you, and because of course they talked about it, and whenever we would talk about the focus on interviewing, it seemed to me that was such a useful emphasis. And then INSU would say, well, that's Eve wrote about that, and she would talk about the purposeful interview. And I was in countless workshops with INSU, and she always talked about solution-focused interviewing as a purposeful, that there was real intention and direction to the interview, and then she would refer back to your work. Yeah.
Oh.
That's nice.
And I met some of your students too. There was is it a fellow by the name of Ross Camp from Kalamazoo, Michigan? He for years came and was being
Ross?
mentored.
Did you say Ross?
Yeah, I can't remember. It was his last name was something like Ross Camp. It's so long ago, but
Yeah,
he always
it is.
he spoke so highly about your work together. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's
Well, I met wonderful people there, and um, it was a tremendous atmosphere. It's a great environment.
A lot of great stuff came out of that great environment.
yeah.
Yeah. When we really think about it, the those of us who got together originally were the only five who didn't have to make a living because Insu and Steve were able to start this up with the hope that within a year or so they could make a little money. And the rest of us had partners who had money to support us while we did this experiment. And, within a year we had clients. I was for some reason, I was chosen to go around to all the businesses in Milwaukee, the big companies, and go to the health center of a big company and introduce us as a place where mental health clients could be sent and they could hope for brief and very effective treatment, which turned out to be true.
Mhm.
Uh,
Oh, wow.
how did the agencies, the mental health and family and child agencies, respond to solution focus?
They ignored it totally. I mean, this was not real therapy.
Mm.
And it,
Were they also steeped in the psychodynamic approach to therapy?
oh, that was the acceptable way to go. And
Mm.
then eventually, you know, other methods joined, but that was some years later.
Mhm.
Became a competitor, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
But
Did
no,
all the agencies in Milwaukee eventually come around?
no, not really. No,
Uh-huh.
no. I would say that eventually we were overtaken by um, what's the what's what's the method I'm thinking about? I can't think about it now. There was another method that overtook us in a big way. And the reason being that we had an interactional approach. We saw families and treated the interactional process, and the other method was an individual one. And the reason at the AAMFT, they always said the reason you guys didn't make it is because it's an insurance issue. The insurance was able to bill individuals, which they wanted to do, and there was no way of billing families.
Mm.
Well, of
And
course,
that's still a challenge.
yeah,
Still is, despite the research.
right.
Yeah, despite the research. Yeah.
Wow. Because I remember when we spoke to you the first time, Eve, and you were saying that the change was happening within the conversation rather than the task given at the end. And that was kind of stuck with me. It was that conversation when things started to, I don't know, you can't see it, but you see the shift. You see the shift in the conversation. So here it's very much cognitive behavioral therapy is the main model. CBT. It's what's used by the National Health Service. And I remember when we first came to Texas, I was kind of taken aback by the fact that for insurance to pay for therapy, a client had to have some sort of diagnosis.
That's right.
Mhm.
That scared me a bit because I thought, shit, do I just have to give someone a diagnosis even though
Right.
they may not have it?
Yeah.
Because when you first started, Eve, I remember you saying we would, bang in the bushes for people, volunteers, anyone just to come along and so that we could develop this approach. So I'm guessing they weren't insurance paid for clients. They were people with, like, I don't know, is it a lower income thing? I'm not sure, because me and Aisha have been talking about this, and we go to a lot of these conferences, and people seem to go, wow, how did you manage to do that? But we don't actually know what we're doing half the time. It just comes out in the conversation. It's just led by the client. And a lot of the clients that we get are at their lowest ebb. And I'm just wondering, is there a difference between having clients like that and having clients that are ready to change and have got the money to pay for it? Do you see what I mean, Gil? It's like,
Huh?
if I've got a professional practice and I'm charging you $100 an hour, does that mean that I've got the funds? I'm coming to see you when I'm ready to see you, and I'm ready to change. Whereas we have families where you've got someone absolutely wanting to change and someone else not in the same system.
I think I think that's true even for clients and families who have the ability to pay out of pocket without insurance. You still run into those that maybe aren't as ready to change. It's a very individual thing. I think one of the differences with people who pay out of pocket versus those who pay insurance, and then those who are covered by, in the US, Medicaid, is the amount of paperwork. So
Right.
the amount of bureaucracy and paperwork.
You know,
Peter, go ahead, Eve. Yeah.
I also think that there are people who obviously in the United States, they're going to know they're going to have to pay money usually, but that when they come maybe saying, okay, I'm going to change, and then in the course of the process, they decide they're not sure they want to change. So I think that's a very common event.
I remember in the early 90s asking at BFTC where the clients came from. And Insu saying, well, more than half are still referred from social service agencies, basically clients, mainstream practice, individual practitioners don't want to work with. And I said, now, was that the way it was when this started out? And she said, yes, we had a lot of clients nobody else wanted. And one thing that really attracted me once I, in the early 90s, learned what SFBT was, and I was working hard to put it into practice, was that it really offered so much more in working with in what are called involuntary and even court mandated clients, because I was working with court mandated clients. And this whole notion of the death of resistance, and I really bought this idea that it was my job to build a cooperative relationship, working relationship with whoever I was working with professionally. And there were tools there, that had been developed in the trenches, so to speak, that didn't exist in other models. Most other approaches were developed working with clients who had chosen to come. And even though they didn't have goals, when they came, it was a different practice situation than those who came in with their, just try to talk to me.
Well, one thing I got, like I said, before I got into solution focus, I was really very much influenced by the MRI strategic approach. And one thing they first talked about was, the client readiness to change. They talked about the customer, complainant, and visitor.
Good.
And so to look for customership, what is the client a customer for? I think solution focused, but they were still problem focused, and solution focused really took it many steps further than by being solution focused and being outcome focused, but still looking for what is the client a customer for. I think solution focused, Peter, you mentioned working with involuntary clients. I don't know about you guys, but it seems to me when you read about or hear about working with involuntary clients, first thing a lot of agencies or practitioners mention would be motivational interviewing. Myself, I think motivational interviewing, solution focus sort of encompasses in motivational interviewing. It's been doing what motivational interview, it's been doing, I think, much better than what motivational interviewing does.
And
I think it goes beyond it.
I do too. Yeah.
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 Because it goes for what the client wants different in the client's own language. So it's more agenda free than motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing, listens for the dissonance with drinking pattern and then tries to amplify that. That's not the same thing as trying to amplify what a client says they want to do differently. The Bruges model was really interesting that way because Luc Isabert was working with folks who, were brought in having been inebriated, and he would talk to them about what services they wanted, and some of them said that they wanted to continue to drink, but they wanted to do it in a more controlled fashion. And he listened to that, and besides having an abstinence group, they also had a controlled drinking group, and then very cleverly said, you can change, if you want to change. And they found more flow from the controlled drinking group to abstinence only, which I think was a very interesting finding. But yeah, I think solution focus really bought the idea that you have to you have to build a cooperative relationship with the client on the client's terms. And oftentimes very unreasonable clients become much more reasonable.
Yes.
In a sense. And, I really have met very few people who were just like totally out to lunch once I got reasonable, once I listened, they got more reasonable.
And we figured that out very early because what did we do at first when we had no clients? And we had just this outline of what Steve really had in mind for a model eventually. We would try out interviews and look at them and then figure out what might work and what might not work. And the whole idea of motivation on the part of the client and how to build on that really developed from that. I know at MRI there was a lot of that as well, but I think we refined that a lot.
I think you did. Yeah. Well, I have a question for you, Eve, about purposeful interviewing, and the session as an intervention. The first time I came across that was in Michelle Weiner Davis's and Bill Hanlon's book that came out in 1989. They had a chapter on that about the session as an intervention, meaning the questions you use in the session. And when was that notion first? Did you guys at Brief Family Therapy Center first come to appreciate that?
I think at the very beginning, I really do.
Uh-huh.
I think we had no clients to begin with, and we would sit and well, let's say we had 1 or 2 clients or 3 clients for the week, and we would look at those interviews and we would analyze them and we would talk about them, and out of those would grow thoughts about what works and what doesn't work.
So much in the videos, you could see how the clients were reacting in the session to specific questions.
And
so you were kind of doing microanalysis before microanalysis was invented.
Yeah, exactly. And we had time and we enjoyed it, and Steve would be at the blackboard making notes, and which I presume then led to his books. And it was a lot of fun. It was very interesting.
I bet. Sounds exciting.
Well, I don't even know if we thought it was exciting at the time. We just thought it was very interesting. We didn't really expect it to lead any place. We hoped, but
yeah.
I went looking for that in the writings, Harry Corman and Sarah Jordan and myself. And actually, Jan Bavelas was involved in this. This trying to trace the theoretical ideas that are present in Steve's writing, since he was the main writer for the group, and when things first appeared. And I know there's been things written about suggesting that BFTC was using therapeutic tasks well into the 90s, but that didn't fit for me. They were more summary kinds of tasks, and this idea that the interview itself was interactionally solution development was occurring there. That's the word that was used in the 86 paper, solution development. So it's a process that's happening in the interview itself.
Well, I have to take credit for saying that all along I felt the interview was essential, and the intervention sort of capped it off, and sometimes it was more effective than others, but certainly with my students, I tried to work with the interview as the intervention, if possible. And then the intervention just being a repetition or an underlining of what happened in the session.
Yeah. And I think the earliest I could find, this is a paper Eve, you wrote with Steve. It's called The Purposeful Interview. And this paper was published, or this paper has got a 1986 date on it already, which means it would have been there before. Plus, I think you, Eve, were the first to use that kind of terminology, to the purposeful interview, that you have this idea of the interview occurring in sequences, and the other one I showed was 1988. So I think those ideas, the rest of solution focus came right with those ideas. It was really kind of shutting the textbooks on on traditional theories about how therapy works, and actually, as Gil said, doing a kind of microanalysis where you looked utterance by utterance at the actual work and said, what's useful and what can we learn from this? And uh, I've been thinking more and more the last 5 years that we really blew it as trainers, because solution focus got identified as questions, exception questions, miracle question, scaling questions, learn how to ask the questions. And then we teach workshops and students will say, well, I asked a miracle question, it didn't work. I said, well, well, I asked a miracle question and the clients, and I didn't know where to go. And or I always get stuck. And we didn't teach it as sequences, which I didn't realize you had conceptualized way back in the 80s, that these interviews occur in sequences. And so most of the writings, people just put the questions in there, and maybe a little example of that. This this is, I think, one of the first writings about solution focus. Your article in here about interviewing, you have extended interactional sequences in there. So you have the question, but you have the client's answer, and then what you do with the client's answer, and then what the client does with your response to the client's first answer. So the interactional nature of solution focus is right here. But maybe we should have been teaching it the way in which it was developed, which is to have people do interviews, look at their own work piece by piece and what worked and what didn't work. Because in a sense, therapists are all creating their own models anyway.
Yeah, a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
Because we were a teaching institute, I think if we had continued to experiment, what you say would have developed naturally. But given that we were teaching, the questions got pulled out as separate. We had to give the students something to hold on to when they first started to work. And so that I think kept us from making it a process and then just capping the process with a review of what happened in the session.
Yeah. Which Reed does so well.
Well, I think in training, it's easy to go and do a 1 or 2 day workshop or go to an agency and do that. And people are looking for concrete, specific tools to use. But I also have had the experience where somebody says, well, I used the miracle question and it didn't work. But they're using that as something discrete, separate from the quality of the therapeutic relationship. And we have all the meta-analysis over the years that shows that the therapeutic alliance is the most important factor in therapeutic outcome. And listening to you talk, Peter, about Eve's work, thinking that about the questions and doing it in sequence. To do that, you have to really listen to the client and not get ahead of the client or behind the client. But just that whole process with the questions, I haven't seen any research on this, but I would think that would really go a long way in helping create and establish and maintain a robust, positive therapeutic alliance.
When I look back at my history of teaching, and I did the same thing because I was teaching workshops with Insu, and I mean, she had a big influence, and they were useful. And I think the interactional piece, we tried to do it with showing video clips and so forth, and it became very apparent early on that if you wanted to teach practicing professionals and have any credibility, they wanted to see it in the moment. They wanted you to do a demonstration. They wanted to see it happen. But I think what the question focus did is it took us away from the client's language and words. And that's, I really like Hasun's work because she's given us a tool. She starts her learners out with that quadrant, which means she starts her learners out with the client's words. And she has them thinking about, are these words about a more positive future? Are these words about a more dreaded past? And of course, they're all mixed together, but it's a tool that helps the person parse out those words, and then they have to make a decision about where they're going to go next, which means they're interactionally involved, and they're thinking, I think, in a way that they thought at BFTC, which was, well, the client said this. Now, what are we going to do with that? How are we going to respond usefully to what this client said? So,
Who did you say was whose name did you say was the person who had these thoughts?
Hae-Sun Moon at University of Toronto.
Oh,
And the brief, she's really doing a lot of training, around the world, using this little tool called the quadrant, where she basically cross classifies. You have the future, versus the past, and you have client wants more of versus client wants less of, and starts to train. I know because I worked for 6 years with her and Boyan, just running up to COVID. I was going to Toronto each year, and she starts learners out with an iPhone, and she says, okay, sit down and have a little 5-minute conversation. One of you talk about something which is a concern to you. Doesn't have to be big. The other one, you be helpful. Try to be as helpful to the person as you can. So it starts with where the motivated person is at, and then takes that little 5-minute conversation, and she teaches them the quadrant, and says, where do the words, takes the first utterance by the client, and the person says, how can I be helpful to you? And then the client usually has a whole lot of positive and negative mixed together in that first utterance, and they classify it. And it gives the learner, they catch it right away, and it gives them a sense of control over what they're trying to do when they listen. Insu used to always talk about listening with solution-focused ears for these kind of hits of possibility, and this just makes it easier for the learner to hear and distinguish that. So I think there's a very useful tool that's going to help trainers train more interactionally.
There you go. There's the quadrant.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Great, Aisha. Very great. Yeah.
I mean, normally I'm quite averse to saying anything nice about Hae-Sun Moon. But I am a huge fan of Hae-Sun, so the quadrant is right there on my laptop. So if she's watching this later on, Hae-Sun, look, I have it. But Eve, what I will do is I will send this to you.
Yeah, would you Yeah, is that like a PDF or is that a slide or
Slides that she sent me ages. So I'll send it to all of you.
Yeah,
that'd be
please
wonderful. Thank you.
do. Yeah,
Send me one too, please.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's really an help.
April a year ago, I went to the Solution Focus conference in Amsterdam that Arno Hubers and Ben, what's Ben's last name?
Berman.
Berman.
Berman, yes. They organized, and Hasten did a pre-conference one-day workshop, and so she presented that. And I think Hasten is just an outstanding presenter. She does great workshops, great training.
You know, I wanted to call your attention to something. You've had Kate Kowalski on the show, on your show, right? Now, Kate is the person who was closest to me at BFDC. She was one of my first students, and she is a superb therapist. She at this point has also coaching certification,
Mm-hmm.
but
Right.
she is just, if anybody can give you as close to the information I can give you, you have to go to Kate. In addition to for her being just a wonderful, wonderful woman. So,
Mm-hmm.
but she should be my successor in terms of information. She was there, and we were very good friends from the start, even though she was my student and many, many years younger. It was just one of those meetings
Mm-hmm.
of the minds, and so we were more than a student and a teacher. We were,
Mm-hmm.
and she's so intelligent, and she caught the first time she saw a client. She came in as a new person, no background in therapy. Knowing her, she may have looked at some of the literature, and she sat down with an elderly couple, and she was all of 26 years old. She sat down and she conducted an interview, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is quite a talent. And it proved to be true. So anyway,
Yeah, I really
she's my
enjoyed the interview with
successor.
Kate. Really enjoyed the interview with her, meeting her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
she was there in those early days with you, Eve, and
from the very
Insu and
close.
Steve. Yeah. That
Yeah.
came through. That came through from her in that interview. Yeah. Well, Peter, you were talking about the importance of using the client's language and how Hasten's quadrant is a useful tool, but I also think that really someone who really emphasized that from the beginning that influenced, I think, everybody else was Milt Erickson.
Well, you're going back to the source.
The
Yeah, back
source.
to the source.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, tapping into clients' resources.
Hmm.
Erickson saw the unconscious mind as a resource.
Yes.
And Eve, you mentioned how Steve went and spent some time with Erickson, and then
Steve has spent time with Erickson?
I think so.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No,
Really?
no,
I
really.
think Jay Haley did. Jay Haley did.
With
I know
Jay,
Haley did.
with
Yeah.
Haley, but he also, Steve went out to meet, Steve went out because, and started to live there because he wanted to hang out at MRI. He for some reason he couldn't afford to or wasn't accepted as a student there. I don't know what the background is, but he moved out there because he was intrigued, and he hung out, as he used to say. I don't know what that meant, whether anyway, and he began to know people there. And so that was the connection. And with whatever he learned there, and of course he met Insu there, um, as Jim Dirks said, he and Insu went out there. They were colleagues at the agency, and Jim had known um, um, had known
John Wickland, was it?
no, Jim didn't know John Wickland. I don't know, somebody did. And so there was a connection that they was able to be made. Just ignore that. And that's about, there was just a little bit of contact that Steve had with MRI. And Insu, they took a course together or something, but P.S. they fell in love. And she convinced him to come back to Milwaukee and work at Family Service, and that was the rest of the story. But it was their contact at MRI that kind of started the whole thing, because she was equally interested, and Jim Dirks, who was the third person who started the group, was the three of them would talk about it all the time. I was a student in the 2-year program, so I didn't know anything about all that at the beginning, yeah. And then they started to, Steve and Insu started to experiment on us students with what they learned at MRI. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, go on, Gil.
No, Joe. No, go ahead, Joe.
No, do you know what? I'm listening to you guys, and I'm thinking about those times, those early days where it was kind of, what does the therapist and the client do when therapy is successful, right? That was kind of the brief that we were looking at, and you know, exceptions, pre-session change, the miracle questions, scaling. But because every client's unique, I know that I've been in sessions where I think the miracle questions hit the spot. It's absolutely perfect, yet nothing's changed. Do you know what I mean? When we're training it, obviously we have to give them the basic tools, but how do you know, how do you train something that's almost like in the moment? I know this question isn't going to work, so I'm going to try something else. Do you know what I mean? Is that just experience? Because it sounds like it's solution focus could evolve forever, because there's always, clients are so unique that nothing's ever going to work the same way with the same sort of client. We have families that have all been through domestic abuse, children that have witnessed domestic abuse, but they all affected differently. And why wouldn't they be? They're individuals. Even though they've been brought up in the same family, they're still individuals. So I love the fact that it's ever evolving. Is any other therapy like that? Is this unique to solution focus, that it's ever evolving, that we keep looking for what works and then try something else?
I don't know. I did psychodynamic work before, and I could say no. It's the same. You never know.
Mhm.
I think that when you train, I mean, we all can get lost in the conversations. And so I do believe each of us builds our own model. I remember being on Patricia Walsh's dissertation at Trinity College. I was an outside reviewer, and she was talking in the early 2000s about um, an innovation coming into a practice community, and the innovation was solution-focused brief therapy. And it was coming into the social work practice community in Ireland. And in her review of the literature, she was citing sources which clearly said no practitioners ever do the model the way in which it was designed by the pioneers. They
Mhm.
never do the textbook version of solution-focused brief therapy or any other kind of therapy. They're in a practice situation working with real human beings, uh, and they're trying to be helpful to them. And they bring their own person, their own way of being with other
Mhm.
people into that, and they try to form this working relationship, therapeutic alliance, and be effective. And so when those questions would come up in workshops, and they would say, now, what do you do in solution focus to try to stay on track with clients and to try to build that? I would say what worked for me, I don't, but it was always to track what the latest iteration was of what the client said they wanted different.
Mhm.
And if I got lost, one thing that I would do is I would go back to the last phrase or words. If it went off in this direction or off in that direction, I say, and so you were saying that what you really would like to have different is a sense of peace. And then I would just shut up and see if they would try to construct off of that. And if not, I would try to come with my solution-focused questions. So it's kind of a way of regrounding. And I think you're right. There are times where I wouldn't ask the miracle question.
Mhm.
But I know when we were working in child welfare, we had this big project with the state of Michigan, and child welfare workers told Insu and me and Susan Kelly, um, we don't ask the miracle question. We're never going to ask that. That's a therapy question. But what they would do is they felt very comfortable with clients scaling 0
Mhm.
to 10 where they were at, you know, in terms of what they wanted in their life. Well, they were at about a 2. So if you said, well, you know, I know this is way out, but suppose it were a 10, what would it look like? The workers, they love that. They would do the whole model with a scaling question. They could handle that. And
Well, the main thing is getting future focus, and you can use scaling to get there or a miracle question,
sure.
but getting future focus and keeping on track, providing some structure to your work with a client, not just each session, but session after session, coming, as you were saying, Peter, coming back to what the client wants
Yeah. And
and
then
what that will
trying
look
to,
like.
as Eve says, to reinitiate a sequence around that, right? To
Uh-huh.
do a sequence around what that client's developing vision is for what they would like to have different, to have a more satisfying life. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
And
Joe,
I
you
think that's,
mentioned, go ahead, Peter.
well, I was going to say to Joe that that's to me the word tyranny is too strong, but that's the way we get off track if we're only question focused and we're
Mm.
not as interactionally focused. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
And-
sorry, I think what we've learned especially in this kind of work, is pace. We're going at the client's pace, not the pace that I've, been told to, we're quite lucky, Peter, and that we have not told, right, you've only got 6 sessions, and you need to get something done by 6 sessions. Yeah. We can work with families for as long as it's useful. And when we say that to families, they almost feel there's a sense of relief in that this is someone that's going to take some time to get to know us. But yeah, I guess so sometimes I may never ask the question. It may come, I may not even get best hopes after 2 or 3 sessions. You just never know. And I suppose you have to have a bit of yourself in this. You can't pretend to be someone else in these sessions. You have to be true to yourself, I guess. There's that. But that alliance it's so true. I mean, me and Aisha will sometimes swap clients because something is off. I don't know what it is, but something is off. We're not connecting in some way or another. So we will just try that because it's just not working. Listen. If we're truly client centered, then we have to go at their pace and really listen to what's being said. But yeah, I don't know if I could go back to any other way of working. And not that I was not like I said earlier, not that I was ever in therapy from the start. I wasn't. I did various jobs, and I came into this sort of area of work by luck. But I bless every day that I'm in it. And I think it's what makes the difference.
Yeah, Joe, what you just said just shows that the solution focus is dynamic, that it's always evolving in different contexts. And what you just said about pace and learning from the client that you have to go with, a slower or a different pace, and then paying attention to those cases where before the client wasn't making any progress and then starts to make progress. I mean, you're reinventing practice in your own context.
Eve, you want to jump in?
I don't mean to interrupt, but I had scheduled an hour for this. Wasn't that the plan? I do have other.
Eve, you leave when you need to leave.
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I'm going to have to leave. Yes.
You leave.
We should do this again. We should do this again though sometime
Definitely.
fairly soon.
It was so nice to meet you.
It's
nice to meet you, Eve.
After all these years.
Joe.
Nice to meet you.
Peter, yes, good to finally meet you sort of in person.
Yes, yeah. That's pretty close to face.
Yes, it works for me.
Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And same to you, Eve.
And same to you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy holidays.
Oh, yes. First, happy
US
Thanksgiving. Yes, there's so many holidays.
It's a fun week. We have all our family together. So looking forward to that.
Right, absolutely. And I have no family here. The family that lives in Milwaukee went to Europe to my daughter-in-law's family, and part of my family is in California, and the other part is in Chicago. But they have their own group. So my husband and I are too old to travel down there now. So anyway, that's beside the point.
We hope you have a happy time together, though.
Yes.
I'm so lucky to be with my husband. It'll be wonderful. Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, wonderful.
That's great. So great to see you again, Eve.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great to meet you,
Bye-bye.
Peter.
Great to meet you. Yeah. Thank you, Isa, for the invitation.
Thank you, Peter, for joining. She was
So please
was a
I,
joy.
I
It's
will
so
do it
nice
for
to
you.
meet you. I'm sorry.
No, yeah,
I think we could talk for another 2 or 3 hours easily.
Yeah, probably, yes.
I'm
Yes.
sure
So
you
thank
can.
you, Eve, for
And
putting
I
a
would
limit on
love
this.
I'd love to join you, but I really can't today.
Okay, all right.
you have fun.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Eve.
Bye, Eve.
Okay.
Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Peter, one of the things that you said to me was, I really want to meet Eve. So there you go.
Yeah. There. Yeah. Thank you. You made it happen. Thank
It,
you.
it was lovely. I mean, not that I speak much naturally anyway. I was waiting for that, Gil. It was just so nice to just keep myself on mute and just listen.
Mm, mm. Oh, we're privileged.
We
Thank
are
you.
very privileged. We're very, very privileged.
Mm. Thanks.
It's a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, we are
Yeah.
very, very, very
Yeah, I really
privileged.
enjoyed it.
Mm.
And I know that Joe is a huge fan of yours. I mean, as are Gil and I. However,
Mm.
Joe was very excited to meet you.
Thank you for
It was
joining.
nice to meet you, Joe.
Nice to
Yeah.
meet
I
you.
mean, what can I just
It was
ask?
a
Because
pleasure.
I have no idea. What is it about Peter that has made you drawn to him?
Oh, interviewing for solutions,
Mm.
the books.
Yeah,
Well,
excellent book, and the video that goes along with it too.
videos. I couldn't afford the tapes though, Gil, because over here you buy the book and you pay an extra
Is
for
that they're separate?
the videos. Yeah. But
Uh-huh.
no, yeah, one of my favorite texts. Yeah, so it's really lovely to meet you. And
Thank
maybe one
you.
day you'll read one of our books. Oh, Gil. It's coming along. It's coming
Is
along.
it?
You know that
So,
they're Peter, you know they're working on a book.
yeah.
They
Well,
have
I've heard that.
they,
You
they
have
have a
to say,
contract. They have a contract with Rutledge.
Mm.
and it's about your agency practice, work
Mhm.
with families.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically with child to parent abuse and using solution focused therapy methods. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So this book has only come about, Peter. Let me just give you the context, because Gil and Eve have been like parents to us and saying, when are you going to do your homework? When are you going to do your homework? When are you going to do your homework? And in this context, is when you're going to write the book, when you're going to write the book.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Joe's always
Brilliant.
wanted to write a book. I've never even thought about it. And then Eve said, if you don't write a book, didn't she, Gil? If you don't write a book before I die, I will haunt you. And I need to read your book before I die, and keeps reminding me of her age every year that I've known her.
Okay.
So then I emailed her and I said, okay, we've now got a contract. And now she emails me once a week asking for an update. How many
Peter,
hours
are you
is
familiar with
there?
the article Joe and Aisha did on silent sessions?
Mhm. Okay.
Hey, Aisha, did you tell Peter when you met him at Toronto about the article you guys did?
No, I wasn't bothering Peter with what we do. I was bothering Peter for a photo so I can send it to Joe so I can go, look. The last thing Peter wanted was to be bombarded by all of us going, Peter. But I mean, I had to take that.
So where's the article? Is it in a solution focused publication, or is
Yeah,
it in
it's on the journal.
The Journal of Solution Focused Practices, the online journal.
Okay, and what year is that a recent article?
Yeah. Last year, 2024, Gil? I'm sure it was last year.
Yeah, it came out about like
We're both looking at Gil. Gil, what did we
I think it came out about what 6 or 8 months ago, didn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
I was on that site this morning, so I'll go back and find it and read it.
Well, I mean, Joe and Aisha they've been doing very innovative, creative use of solution focus. And so I recognize that and say, you need to write this up. No one else is doing this, and or with the book that on the child to parent abuse. I mean, there's very little written about that in general, but especially in the from a solution focused perspective,
Right. And are you going to give us the conversations or some of the conversations in the book between you and the clients?
Yeah.
As Eve would call them, the sequences. Yeah.
We're not in a sort of blow for blow, word for word format, but more of
Yeah.
it's more general, but explaining. So each chapter will explain a different sort of solution focused assumption, whether it's whether it's scaling, miracle, and at the end, a longer case study, but not a word for word account, if that makes sense. You know, where it says therapist said this, the client said that. Yeah, it's more about the power behind the sort of questions, really. Yeah. Yeah, we've struggled with it a lot.
Peter, look in your chat. I should just put the link to it in the chat.
Oh, look in my chat. Okay.
It is getting easier and easier to write. It's getting slightly easier. But yeah, but I think Joe and I are extremely lucky to have Eve and Gil in our lives, but also to have so many mentors out there, so many people that we can just call to say. Actually, I was talking about who was I, Veronica and I talking about today? John Hendon.
John.
She came in and she asked me for my opinion on something, and I said, actually, I had a client, you know, in a similar situation, and at the time I didn't know what to do. So I called upon John Hendon, and he spent over an hour with me via Zoom, talking me through it, and training me. And then I went back and I tried it with this client, and I was reporting back to him, and he was like guiding me as to what to do. And then thereafter, I was using that with other clients, and, you know, making mistakes and getting it right, and then being more client led with it and making it my own. And it's just amazing to have, you know, all these absolutely brilliant people, professionals around us, where I can say, right, that one I'm going to go to this person, that one I'm going to go to this person. Because we're not the experts in anything. We just have the knowledge that we have. It's our clients that are our teachers, but then we also rely on the resources around us to shape our practice. And the minute we believe we know anything and everything, that becomes very dangerous. So you draw on other expertise, including your clients, who are also the experts teaching you. And then you kind of put it together. So that's kind of really what the book's about. It's you know, it's about child to parent abuse and using the solution focused approach. But actually, where is all this information coming from? Mainly the clients, and then everyone around the clients. And what difference has that made to the other clients that we've been supporting?
But you guys started doing that work before you learned solution focus, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it wasn't very solution focused. There might have been elements of like a strength-based model to begin with. But because Joe and I have education backgrounds, it was mainly, you know, you're institutionalized. We would, you know, do home visits at the time and then say, here's a behavior contract. Promise you're not going to beat your parent. Promise you're not going to shout. And what are you going to do instead? But it didn't explore anything else. And now you have to sign it. And we are going to countersign it. You know, that's what it was like.
And how well did that work?
It didn't work. It didn't work. And especially
it didn't work, did it?
Especially for neurodiverse kids and parents that, you know, had so many challenges, because it was about us. Sign this contract, make us happy. Do what we tell you to do, because we are the experts. We know what's right for you. You don't know what's right for you. I know what's right for you. So therefore, I'm going to set you a task. And this is what it looks like. And you're going to sign it, because that means, you know, the world will collapse if you don't do it. And it was absolutely terrible. But I don't regret any moment of it, because then that shapes you to know what you don't do. And you guys were talking about learning from mistakes and using training material. And I have a few videos, and I know Joe does as well, where when we're delivering training, we will show these videos of us with clients and how terrible the session was. Even though the outcome was still good, but if you break it down into SF elements, it was terrible. And those videos, great videos should be shown, but also videos where they can be improved. And so what we do is in the training, we ask people to break it down. What should I have asked instead? What difference would that have made? Where do you think I went wrong at this point? And we really, really break it down. Was the outcome good? Yes, it was, because it worked. However, it's a great training material for what not to do. And I think they're a lot, they're really key for when you're delivering training, to not only feel the impact of being asked SF questions, but also looking at it when it's gone wrong. And the panic, because one of the videos, it was more about me and the way that I felt about what the client potentially could do to themselves if that session didn't go well. So I was driven by the fact that she may end her life because of this. So I was talking to the person potentially that's going to end their life, as opposed to the person in front of me who's seeking support. And and you can really see that. You can really see that in video and lots of other videos. And I just think they're invaluable. We need to learn from our mistakes, and we need to embrace those mistakes and use them where we can. In my opinion, I say that because I've just realized I'm speaking to Peter de Jong and Gil, and I'm just waffling.
No, I think sometimes you want something for the client that they don't actually want for themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Oh gosh, yes, that's
you wanna save them. Come on, guys, don't split up. You seem like such a nice couple, but it's not up
That's Joe's video.
it's not up to me. So you've got to be really wary that you're not working to your own agenda. Sometimes, we're not there to stop them from drowning, but maybe help them swim on their own.
I mean, it's a challenge for every clinician because we're human. We're just human.
Yeah.
So, Peter, have you enjoyed our little catch-ups that we have?
I have indeed. Yeah, that's
Will you come back?
Yeah, will you come back?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. I'd be happy to. This has been my favorite topic for the last 35 years, I think.
I
think about it every day, and as you were just talking, it's so interesting to me. We were doing this micro-analysis of 2 lines of questioning, and we were focusing on the questioning process, the kind of looking at the details of how a solution-focused practitioner does a sequence. And so we had one problem and one more future solution focused. And the client answers, the way, one serendipitous finding is the way in which clients construct answers to questions. And one thing we noticed consistently was that when clients become future focused and have something they want to do different or in their mind better or in a more satisfying way, they work off what they did wrong or they thought they could improve. And they describe that first as a kind of platform for constructing something more satisfying or something better. And the other line of questioning, where something had gone wrong and you say, oh, something went wrong, tell me about it. There's none of that. They just describe what went wrong. So there's kind of an insight there about how we, I mean, there's something I definitely learned there about how we grow or struggle our way toward a more effective way of doing our lives or a more effective way of anything.
Well, Peter, as you're talking, I recall that article you and Insu did on, I can't remember the exact title, on co-constructing solutions. That was
Well, we
published
did a way back on co-constructing competence.
you published in Families and Society.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that article.
Yeah.
Oh, Gil, you just like to tell everyone that you know all the articles.
You know a lot of articles.
Yes. Right.
Well,
Gil is
So
a
Gil's an
librarian.
academic.
I'm an academic, and so I really started teaching solution focus, making it an integral part of my clinical courses at Ohio State, probably in fall of '94. And so I taught a course on clinical social work with, we ended up calling it strength-based clinical social work with individual adults. And I taught a course on couples and family therapy, and I taught a course on crisis intervention and brief therapy. And solution focus was foundational in each one. I taught other theoretical approaches, but I always started with solution focus. That was foundational. And of course, like you, Peter, you were an academic and you had students graduate and they go out in the field and you run into them later, and they tell you how it's working for them. And they really appreciate it. That also has been further validating is, former students coming back and telling you, this is really good stuff. And it's really helped in a wide variety of settings.
I did the same thing, Gil. Instead of teaching the range of models, I thought I would say it to students. I say you're going to learn one thing really well, and it's the way I found most satisfying way to work with people. And we'll do the other things, but you're actually going to practice this before you leave. So at least you have one thing to start with when you get out into the field. And they would come back and they would say that was, for some, it was the best course in the whole program because they actually could do something with people. And social work programs were notorious for teaching the range of stuff. And then students would go out into practicum and they said they come back and say, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah. Well, I would start with solution focus. I said I would teach other approaches, but when I taught other approaches, I would always interpret it through a solution focused lens.
Oh, that's interesting.
I would make the connections between, like in structural family therapy, doing an enactment in a session, but how you might do this from a solution focused perspective, how you can make them compatible.
So you're
just using that as an example.
So you're brainwashing them. That's what you're doing. You're manipulating their mind.
But most people don't let themselves be brainwashed, even if we try.
A few more
including clients.
A few more conversations with Gil and you'll understand what I'm saying. You will write this book. You will write the paper. Don't do this. And I will always say no.
Okay. Well, before the next time, I'm going to read this Unspoken Answers. That's my homework. I'll read Unspoken Answers.
So I will set the new date for next month. No, for January. So I'll see you guys in January. Have a brilliant.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Have a happy holiday season.
Happy holidays.
Same to you, Peter.
Okay, great talking. Thanks for inviting me. Bye-bye.